I've had many people ask me over the years what I have for an engine in my hoopty. This is my hoopty, okay? My engine. It's a roller cam 350. The cam came out of an LT1 GM crate motor. And the camshaft says GMPP on it. I'm assuming it's an LT1 or 1-up. I really don't know what it is, to be quite honest with you. I bought the crate motor for $100, pulled the camshaft out of it, and sold the rest of it off to, okay? This is a Holley Projection intake. They're not made for street use, okay? There's no provision for the brackets for the electronics. So if you look here close, see down in there? I made that aluminum bracket, and then there's two metal brackets that bolt onto the intake. And then I had to take the intake and then machine it out just enough where I had two perfectly good flat spots to mount it. And the aluminum was a scrap piece, that's why it's got extra holes drilled into it. But you know, it looks pretty good, okay? It's got DNA cheap headers on it, but they're not that bad. They fit a little tight, you know, in here. I used two different wire looms to get them how I wanted, and I made my own wires. Okay, they fit better if you make your own wires. Okay. Now see over here, in order to use the header, this bracket originally went down this way. It would have been a double loop, and I cut that off. See that? That way it fits the header. And this on GMs just absolutely annoys me. So I machined that down so I don't have to pull off the pulley every time. Okay, and if you can see in here, there is AN lines, okay, going to a TBI. Now this should take a 454 TBI, which I originally had on it, but I was trying to slow the truck down because it was taken off too quick on the bottom end, in my opinion. So if you look there, there's a machined adapter. I machined out the adapter myself and converted it from the 454 TBI to the 350 TBI. Now, I mean, if you want to go fast, put the 454 TBI on. I slowed it down a little bit, I think, that way. Got an MSD coil on it. Now I modified that bracket a little bit. I took the bracket and I cut a groove in each one of the mounting holes. So now you can put it in there and then, whichever way it turns, and then just give it a little twist and then it locks into place, and then tighten your bolts up. So then if you're going to take it out, just, you know, a slight turn of your bolts and then twist it to unlock it and then take it out. Makes it a whole lot simpler when you're working on one of these. Okay. Now, if you're going to use the 454 TBI, you're going to need these adapters. You see those? Warr Performance sells the adapters. There they are. They're $40. I don't know if they went up in price now or not. Warr Performance is the only place I've ever seen them for sale. They make them custom. I think that it's pronounced spelled W-A-R-R. Okay. Here's what I'm using for pistons. Cheap. Hypertechtic pistons. Okay. What else can I tell you? So I don't have much in this engine. Literally, I build it. I pretty much had leftover parts except for the few new ones like the intake, the valve covers, PRW roller rockers, you know, cam bearings and, you know, main bearings and that stuff. I'm using ceramic bearings in it. I prefer ceramic bearings over traditional lead Babbitt bearings. I will never go back. Okay, so I had paid $100 for a core, an LT1 core, and turnaround solar for $100. I got the cam for nothing. I bought a crate engine core, which is what I used, but I did not want newer style heads. See, these are the older style heads. Okay, so what I'm using is small block Chevy 400 heads with 202 1.6 valves in them. Yeah, I prefer the old school heads. And you know, see, you got the old school bolt pattern. But now one of the problems you're going to have is if you use the old school heads and you're going to use the old or the newer style dipstick, there's no place to mount it. Okay. Now this is a 305 dipstick, which works well in these. There was a 350 that was like out 1 or 2 years that also had, you know, the dipstick located in this location. But there's a problem with mounting it. You either got to take some sandpaper and run it around the end of the dipstick and get the size down a little bit for going a hole, or you have to chase the hole out with the drill bit. Okay? But it works better with the headers that way. Okay. Many people want to know, how did I convert this over from the 6-cylinder to the 8 when it came to the fuel lines? Alright, yeah, you can see it. See those fuel lines? That's where I have them spliced in. Okay? So from that point on, I go to AN lines. Now, that's a pretty wide area here, so if you have to work on it and tighten them up, you can. Okay? Now, I don't use the little aluminum wrenches that they give me. I use regular old, you know, steel wrenches. You know, I want it tight. I don't give a damn if it looks good. Okay? The exhaust on here at the moment is a single. And my muffler blew a hole in it. But the exhaust will still be changed here eventually. It's going to go to a dual, a single, inlet muffler. And then it's going to go back to a dual. Okay? Okay. Here's my engine. I just started it. It's on fast idle. It's an LT1 cam. It doesn't sound that racy. But the LT1 cam's got really good bottom end torque. And the power band is really good. I mean, I'm really liking it. Now, this is a very lightweight truck. And it's a single cab with a G-made composite step side body on it. At 45 to 50 miles an hour, when I floor it, it will break them loose. And I've come darn close to rolling it too many times, so I won't put the package in anymore, you know, too often. So I'm a little leery about putting it in the passenger now. Okay, so here's the engine. The gas mileage is not too bad on it. The vacuum for the brakes is good. Okay. Oh, here's another thing. I'm not a fan of these radiators. In fact, I absolutely don't care for them. This is a KKS radiator. But a lot of this stuff, when you go to order it, the dimensions is not what it should be. So it don't fit very well. You have to really squish down the rubber pads to make it fit. Okay? And it's a really a tight fit. Okay? So it's wider than a 3-core, but smaller than a 4. Okay? And here's the engine. And it runs quite nice. Okay, I got a hole in the exhaust, so it doesn't sound as good as it should. Okay, in fact, there's a hole in the exhaust and a piece of metal wrapped around it with a big hose clamp. Okay? But there's the LT1 cam idling. It's not that bad. It's a hoopty. I'm running cheap Iowa ethanol gas in it. See my VP sticker up here. We did have some nice race fuel in it for a while. And of course race fuel costs too much, so I really didn't need it. And then I put the cheap ethanol in it, and I don't drive the truck that often. And the injectors are kind of half plugged now. If it wasn't for the cheap gas, it might run a little better than this. So it is very snappy on the bottom end. But when it had the 454 throttle body on it, it was even snappier. Okay? You can run either or. Somebody's probably going to ask you, but if you run a 454 throttle body, do you have to tune it? It's your own opinion. You know, you might get lucky. You might get lucky. You never know. The computer that I'm using out of here, now I could have just used the same computer, but I have a chip. The computer that I'm using out of here, I took out of a sheriff's rescue truck. I don't know if there was anything different about the chip. I do not know. I took the computer out of a sheriff's rescue truck. I stuck it in here, and it's been doing quite well. Okay, but the truck is a hoopty. It looks good for an Iowa truck. It does. The bumper is crooked on the front. That side hangs down lower. This side's up higher. The paint I've been trying to fix in the bodywork. When I got it, the door handles were busted out because they had been broken into so many times, and then I did my best to repair them. This one I think I did a little bit better, but I don't have the bodywork quite perfect over in here. I had it at one of my buddy's shops, and I threw something at it and put a dent in there. They were playing with their dog. Okay. This is R&M linen white paint here. And this is linen white, R&M white. And inside the doors in here, that's linen white, R&M brand. But this paint down here on the bottom is cheap eBay paint. It does not turn out as well. That tailgate is cheap eBay paint. Okay? The hood is cheap eBay paint. It's all dirty now. It, for some reason, takes a lot to get that cheap eBay paint to look nice. You're going to do a cut and buff. You may have to do color sanding. And it doesn't like to hold up well. It stains easily. Like if a leaf lands on it, the stain seems to go into paint real easy. You can see this is a slight difference in the color. And it's very temperamental. I've had the paint look like it shattered like glass, and then I had to sand it all back down. I've had the paint turn out good. I've had it turn out bad. There's some areas where I buffed it where the paint's a little lower, like on this side, because I had buffed up, bad spots. Now, when I painted this thing, and I was doing all the buffing, I had a problem where I took the paint off on the very edge here. So it's not easy to do, but I tried to repaint this in with that cheap eBay paint. And it didn't mix well. Even though I had cleaned it first, it did not mix well. This is like the third try. There's a little bit of an edge going from the top to the bottom right there. Okay, that's like the third try. Okay, now see, like down here, see, I didn't mix well. And then I had some of the paint chip off. That even though the paint was thick and even though there was primer under it, it chipped off, which is one of the complaints that people have with the paint. Okay, now this side here, this is one of those sides I repainted because the paint was at the bug spot. The paint had started to, when I buffed it and I got the edge, it wasn't doing so good, see? So I repainted it. Now it don't look too bad, that's shiny. Alright, now I tried to fix this up here, and if you can see, that turned out nice and shiny. But then, I didn't have the spring painted, and I didn't have this painted. That turned out shiny. This turned out all orange peel looking. Okay? Now, originally, when I did it like the first 1 or 2 times, I had this all masked off. Okay? But then when I went to paint this, and go from here to here, I wound up painting some of this, and it ruined that paint. Because what it did, it just gave me a paint line. Oh well, it's on the inside of the hood, right? So now the hood was a second. The hood had a dent in it on the downside right in here. And I think I did pretty good getting the dent out. There's a supply company in Chipton, I think it is, that sells Camaro parts, and he's the one that had the hood. He ordered it, and the hood showed up with a dent in it. Then they tried doing the paintless dent repair, and they over pressed it out. And I told him he should have just left it, because I could have just put a little putty over it. But I wound up, even though I didn't, very carefully, I managed to get the dent down. He had it up too high, very carefully. Took a lot of work. See, got it down. That's how I got the hood. So the emblem on it is billet aluminum. It's a cheap replacement grill. You know, there's a big difference between good paint and cheap paint. See that? That's good paint. This is cheap paint. This is good paint. The firewall is cheap paint. Sometimes you do get what you pay for. Okay? But there's some cheap parts I stuck on here though that aren't too bad. I mean, I like the headers. The headers work out well. The PRW rockers. I've heard some people complain about them, but it's going to be alright. The intake came off eBay and it was new. But I did notice it had some casting flaws on it, which a little bit of massage work, you can't see it, it looks all nice now, you know. Well, what else I can tell you, that's pretty much it. So, you can see, it is from Texas. It came out of Texas. The truck kept on getting broken into, and the previous owner drove it to Iowa, and he left it here with a relative that didn't want it. I wound up buying it cheap, okay? But it didn't look this nice, but it's still a hoopty. Okay, I'll give you a little tour of what it looks like. Okay, so here's my hoopty. Okay, I was trying to make it look like the ARE, the 1993 cover truck. I'm trying to find a topper for it yet to match the wheels, because that's what was in the ARE truck at that year. Okay. Passenger side, or driver's, excuse me. Okay, so here's the driver's side of the truck. It's not bad looking for a hoopty. It's rust-free from out of state. This whole side here, this box side, was all busted when I got it. I had glassed the bottom half back together. I mean, it was literally shattered. And then I glassed part of the back side together. Not too bad. You can see a little bit of an edge on the inside, how it's just not quite perfect, but I got it pretty close. Okay. It's got the duals on it. And the rear end on it was hit too, and it took out one axle, it bent it, and it's got new gears in it. Okay, this truck is about as rust-free as you're ever going to find one here in Iowa. I mean, it's just absolutely spotless underneath. So, the exhaust don't sound so good now though, because it's got a hole in it. A little better view of what the interior looks like in it. It's got the factory tack. Okay, this is kind of interesting. You see my headliner? Several years before I started putting this truck together, the leading star of Pirates of the Caribbean was visiting, picking up a part for his dad's truck. And I was trying to figure out how to do the headliner, so I thought, you know what, I think that looks kind of neat. Kind of got that piratey, kind of tropical, you know. And I took the original headliner and fiberglass resined it and then sanded it down so it's a solid piece. Then I used Lando glue and glued that to it.